I was pulled into a horror world, drawing a children's story challenge called Invite the Princess Home. The princess wearing a blue dress gave me a strange smile and handed me a picture. I can't find my shoes, I can't go home without them, can you help me find them? In the picture was a pair of beautiful blue glass slippers, but I saw under the princess's dress was a pair of big fat feet, 10 times bigger than those shoes. I entered the horror game world. As a newcomer, I drew a children's story level called Invite the Princess Home. Strange comments swirled before my eyes. Everyone come and look at this unlucky person. So sweet and sad, my sister is so beautiful. Me, what the hell is this? 1 second, I was selling watermelons, and the next second, I was thrown into a world of horror. Before I could adapt to the new environment, I was forced to choose a challenge level. As a newcomer, I knew nothing about this place. I randomly chose a fairy tale level called Invite the Princess Home. As soon as the mission was announced, strange comments floated before my eyes. Oh my god, this newcomer is really unlucky. I heard that all the players who participated in this fake A rank level died. This is the newcomer's grave, whoever draws it will die. My condolences in advance. I'm really looking forward to it, this level hasn't appeared in a long time. I silently watched the comments flow by. Were these comments written by humans? As soon as my thoughts changed, my eyes suddenly darkened. Immediately afterwards, I was standing in front of a white castle. The system's voice rang in my ears. Welcome to the fairy tale level, invite the princess home. Mission, complete the princess's wishes. Attention, an angry princess will kill. The beautiful, gentle, and kind princess is eager to meet you. Good luck. Entering the castle, I discovered that there were 4 other players besides me. A total of 5 people. There was also a person labeled as an NPC. Butler? The boy had blonde hair and blue eyes, wearing a black tailcoat, the corners of his lips curved into a perfect smile. He looked about 7 or 8 years old. So beautiful that he didn't look like a human. When everyone had arrived, the little butler spoke up. Welcome to the fairy tale castle, I am Butler Rossi. It's getting dark, please rest early. You can choose any room in the castle except the top floor. The princesses have gone to bed, please come visit tomorrow morning. Please do not disturb the princesses while they are resting. Rossi finished instructing and turned to leave. I watched him walk up the spiral staircase step by step and disappear on the upper floor. In the hall, the other players also scattered to find their own rooms. I chose a room on the 3rd floor and closed the door. Lying on the bed, I pondered over the words of the butler Rossi. There was some important information in his words. The princess is on the top floor. You can only meet the princess in the morning. It seemed that you could only meet the princess tomorrow. At midnight, the cuckoo clock alarm rang out on time. Closing my eyes, I prepared to fall asleep. Suddenly, in the quiet space of the castle, a clack, clack, clack sound rang out. When I was still selling myself to capitalism, I heard this sound every day. It was the sound of high heels. The sound of slow, elegant footsteps. Suddenly, the sound of the shoes stopped, and the space fell silent. Immediately after, the sound of the heels hitting the ground became more urgent and urgent. Crazy debauchery, extreme madness. Along with that, a piercing scream echoed throughout the empty castle. The desperate screams made people's hair stand on end, extremely terrifying. Oh my god, I was scared to death. Died on the first night, TSK TSK TSK. I hate it, I lost the bet. I thought that sweet girl with dead fish eyes would go first. Up there, how can you use dead fish eyes and sweet to describe the same person? Why not? Isn't that girl number 5 sweet? Don't her eyes look like dead fish eyes? Sweet and sad, my sister is so beautiful. Damn, a Yuri has appeared. The comment screen that had disappeared appeared again. Even though I closed my eyes, I could still see it. Sweet sister with dead fish eyes was probably talking about me. From childhood to adulthood, there were always people asking me, "Are you sad?" Maybe I had a sad face. Number 5, because I was the 5th contestant to appear. With a screen full of comments, the miserable screams in my ears weren't so scary anymore. I lay still, pretending to be asleep. I had absolutely no intention of going out. To consider. Anyway, curiosity killed the cat. 6 o'clock the next morning. I woke up, walked out the door, and headed towards the rooftop. The smell of fresh blood wafted through the air, and the higher I went, the more intense it became. As soon as I reached the rooftop, my pupils contracted. Not far away, a bloody corpse lay sprawled, blood stains spreading from his legs all over his body. In that case, could that thing still be called a leg? Flesh and blood mixed together, almost like minced meat. My stomach churned, and I turned around to vomit. When I turned back to look, my breath caught. Rossi had appeared silently, and the corpse had disappeared without a trace. In less than 10 seconds, the floor had been cleaned clean. Even the stench of blood in the air had completely disappeared. It felt like it was just an illusion. Rossi smiled at me, "Good morning." I stared at the little boy in front of me, calmly replying, "Good morning, Butler Rossi." His face with fixed expressions had a slight change. Ding, system, congratulations to the player for receiving NPC favorability plus 0.1. Politeness is a noble virtue, respect is a virtue to be cherished. Comment screen, huh? There's actually a favorability setting. You should know that the previous players all called him brat, dwarf, little friend, little butler, little one. It's only 0.1, what's the difference? You came to greet the princess, right? Rossi's words pulled me out of the comment thread. I nodded, that's right. A new day has begun, I wish you luck. As soon as Rossi finished speaking, a deafening scream rang out, and the door opened. The girl was wearing a blue evening dress, her hair tied up high, and a crystal crown on her head. She stood at the entrance, muttering anxiously, "Where are my shoes? Where did my shoes go? How am I supposed to go home without shoes?" A moment later, her eyes stopped at me. Her innocent look disappeared, her eyes fixed on me. I glanced around, but Rossi was nowhere to be seen. "Have you seen my shoes?" The princess's cold and pale face turned towards me, even though she was more than 10 steps away, her voice seemed to be whispering in my ear. Like a vicious snake waiting to attack. I didn't answer. She asked again, "Have you seen my shoes?" The atmosphere became heavy, the breath of death enveloped the surroundings. Instinctively, I knew that I could no longer remain silent. I carefully opened my mouth, "Good morning, beautiful princess." Just now, when greeting Rossi, he said, "Are you here to greet the princess?" I guessed that this sentence was meant to be a reminder. Sure enough, as soon as I finished speaking, the princess immediately returned to her innocent image. She covered her mouth with both hands, surprised and embarrassed, saying, "Oh, a guest has arrived. Welcome to the fairy tale castle, I am Princess Sinya." I walked towards the princess, she happily invited me inside. The inside of the room was lavishly decorated, and there was nothing ominous. The commentary screen, "How dangerous, number 5 almost faced death." Unexpectedly, she overcame danger thanks to her politeness. This princess is not simple, none of the previous players have been able to fulfill their wishes, they were all killed by her. That's right, this is a mission that is almost impossible to complete. Mentioning the mission, I spoke up, "I came here to help the princess solve her worries." May I ask, what is your wish? The princess looked sad. My shoes are gone, I can't go home without them. Can you help me find them? System, congratulations to the player for activating the first mission objective, Sharp Knife Dancing Shoes. A pair of naughty shoes, hiding during the day to sleep, and secretly dancing at night. Quickly help the princess fulfill her wish, find the shoes so she can put them on and return home. 7. When I saw the mission objective, I immediately thought of the strange sound of the heels and the screams last night. There was no doubt that those shoes seemed very dangerous. I still clearly remembered the miserable scene of the player this morning. It wasn't simple at all. I thought for a moment and asked, what do the princess's shoes look like? Oh right, I have a photo. The princess pulled out a photo frame from the drawer. In the photo was a pair of blue glass shoes, elegant and beautiful. But it was a bit unreasonable. Because in the photo, the princess was just standing next to the shoes, not wearing them. The shoes were lying next to her feet. Usually, girls would wear their favorite shoes and take pictures. I unconsciously lowered my head, looking down at the princess's feet, which were hidden by the thick skirt. At this moment, the princess suddenly picked up the photo frame. She lifted the photo frame into her hand, her eyes gentle. This pair of shoes was a gift I received on my coming-of-age ceremony when I turned 18. Princess Sinya smiled sweetly, as if she was reminiscing about beautiful memories. She happily spun around. When the hem of her skirt flew up, my eyes were instantly glued. I almost made a sound in surprise, but because I was so terrified, the sound was stuck in my throat. I originally thought that finding the shoes was already a difficult task, but I didn't expect the bigger challenge to lie with the princess. The petite girl had a pair of disproportionately large and very clumsy feet. Meanwhile, the shoes in the photo were only a small part of those feet. No wonder someone in the comments screen said, "This is an impossible task." My face suddenly turned stiff. What should I do? Even if I found it, the princess wouldn't be able to put it on. As I was looking down at the princess's legs, a cold, greasy, and sticky voice suddenly came from above my head. Are my legs pretty? My gaze was still on the spinning skirt, but I could clearly feel a cold gaze staring at me. I quietly hid my hands behind my back and raised my head. At the same time, a knock, knock, knock. Knocking sound came from the door. The fluttering skirt stopped, and the princess stared at me. Her gaze swept from my face to my legs, a flash of anger flashed in her eyes. She said to me with a disappointed expression, "There are new guests, you can go now." "Oh right, I have to see my shoes tomorrow, or I'll be angry." I smiled and nodded. She went to open the door and I followed. Should I remind her that her head was facing the wrong way? I thought for a moment and decided not to interfere. What if she got angry? The door opened and I was the first to step out. When I saw who was knocking, I realized it was two players. A man and a woman, quite young. When they faced me, their eyes showed a hint of surprise. I passed them and left. Just then, I heard a loud scream. Turning around, I saw the princess trying to fix her head. The other two players, one of them was so scared that he sat down on the ground. I didn't look any further and walked down the spiral staircase. Breakfast was served on the first floor, but no one had come in yet. I ate something casually, glanced around, but didn't see Rossi anywhere. Feeling a little disappointed, I wanted to ask him for some clues about the dancing shoes. After eating, when I returned to my room, I heard a scream. Then, from the stairs, a person ran down in a panic. It was one of the two players just now. Judging from his expression, it was obvious that something had happened to the other person. He staggered back to his room and slammed the door shut. I looked up at the ceiling, looking towards the top floor. The faint smell of blood wafted through the air. Comment screen, It's only the first day and 2 people have already passed away. I bet that everyone will die within 3 days. Up there, what do you bet? Don't, I can't bear to let that girl number 5 die, I'll be heartbroken. Bet ####. This comment screen is very strange, it's not real time, but it suddenly appears from time to time. Sometimes, there were words that were blurred as if I couldn't know. The conversations were also worthless. There were absolutely no clues related to the game. I suspected that there was a wall of information surrounding me, preventing me from finding out the truth. Entering the room, I thought I had to go out tonight. Sharp Knife Dancing Shoes? Why did they have such a strange name? The photo the princess gave me was just a pair of beautiful, ordinary shoes. While I was lost in thought, suddenly a knock came from outside. Who was it? Could it be Rossi? I opened the door. In front of me was a lively young man, especially dressed very strangely. I opened the door. In front of me was a young man dressed especially, very cool. Bright purple hair, shabby clothes. I guessed he was in high school. He glared at me fiercely. Hey! Quickly tell me the clues you got this morning, otherwise. Otherwise what? I interrupted him. The lively young man was stunned, looking me up and down. He puffed out his chest. If not, then I will deal with you. He pulled out a switchblade, waving his arms and legs in front of me. Me, cold face. Him, threatening face. Atmosphere, a crow flew by. You, don't pretend to be cute. I am a person with a heart of stone, I will never show mercy. I calmly looked at him, my hand behind my back silently pulled out a watermelon knife. The young man was stunned. He swallowed his saliva, pretending to say, "Your limbs are so weak, even with a knife you can't beat me." After saying that, he intended to snatch my knife. But I beat him up. My blade was immediately pressed against his neck. He was so scared that he immediately knelt down. "Sorry, I was wrong, don't kill me. I was just scaring you, I didn't intend to actually do it. I'm a good person, even though I skip school, smoke and fight, I'm really a good person. From today on, you're my big brother, I will completely listen to you." This speed of admitting my mistake really opened my eyes. Comment screen.
Ah!
Sweet little sister carrying a big knife. Screaming, excited, really like it. Someone tell me, why would someone carry a watermelon knife? Was she cutting melons before coming here? Thinking face, that's right before I fell into this game, I was cutting melons. Or rather, selling melons. My family originally ran a fruit shop. As soon as I entered this game, I discovered that my real-world items were also brought along. The system warehouse has a toolbar, with one tile available. The other tiles are gray, waiting to be unlocked. My watermelon knife is always placed in the toolbar. I let the cool guy go. At noon, I met player number 2, he didn't look too good. When he saw me coming down, he looked on guard. He ate quickly and left, completely unwilling to communicate. From the lively young man, I learned that he was the first player to join. He was number 1, his name was Ma Tian, his friends called him Fan. The one who died last night was number 3, this morning was number 4. At lunch, there was still no sign of Rossi. It wasn't until dinner time that I saw the butler again. Rossi appeared. He still had a smile on his face. He said, "A wonderful day is about to end, good night everyone. Hope to see everyone again tomorrow." Rossi bowed politely, then turned and disappeared. That's right, disappeared. I was about to go over and ask, but the boy had disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Does anyone know which room that boy is in? He's in room 404. I turned around abruptly. The fan flattered, I've carefully observed everyone's residence, I know who's on which floor and which room. I saw this mysterious boy leave his shoes outside room 404. Big brother, if you want to find him, I can go with you. I couldn't help but be surprised, this fan was much more agile than I thought. Standing in front of door number 404, I politely knocked 3 times. The door opened immediately. The room was dark, without a single ray of light. It made people feel very uncomfortable. Rossi stood at the doorway and asked, "Good evening, what's the matter?" "Hello, sorry to bother you." I tried asking, "The princess lost her shoes, do you know how to find them?" Rossi stared at me, his green eyes calm. "It's a pair of shoes that are both mischievous and lovely, but they have a very hot temper. It's not difficult to find, it likes to dance at night." I already knew this information, but I hoped Rossi could give me more clues. Why didn't it return to the princess? As soon as this question was asked, I noticed a flicker of fluctuation in Rossi's green eyes, but it quickly disappeared. He replied, "It has a consciousness, it only chooses the owner it likes." After hearing that, I frowned slightly and didn't ask any further. Because my intuition told me that the NPC in front of me was starting to feel impatient. From my pocket, I took out a small bag of peas and handed it to Rossi. "Thank you for answering my question. This is a thank you gift." Rossi stared at my palm for a long time before reaching out to take the bag of peas. He looked into my eyes and asked, "What's your name?" "Chi Hua." Ding. System, congratulations to the player for receiving plus 0.9 favorability points from the NPC. Currently the NPC's favorability is 1%, try harder. Giving gifts is a warm act, it makes people's moods happy. Comment, only 0.9%, this little guy is really tough. This sweet but melancholy little sister seems to be able to hold on until the end, I'll buy a ticket right away. Don't rush, the big show is at night. If she can make it through tonight, I'll bet everything on her surviving to the end. Doesn't anyone care if snack number 5 is delicious? As I was leaving, Rossi gave me a piece of advice. Don't knock on the princess's room door at any time other than morning, especially at night. Late at night, at 11:30. I knocked on the door of the fan. He opened the door with an annoyed expression. He struggled, "Big brother, do we really have to leave now? Or wait until daytime?" Me, cold expression. He slowly followed me up the stairs to the upper floor, muttering nonstop. "Did you hear the noise yesterday?" I was so scared that I hid under the blanket and didn't dare to sleep. "Big brother, remember to protect me later." If I knew this, I wouldn't have skipped class. I just hate studying, why do you make me play this game as punishment? "Shut up!" I shouted, glaring at him. He was silent, making a zipper motion with his mouth. I stood on the last step before reaching the top floor. The castle was circular in shape, from here I could see the entire corridor of the top floor. The dim lights flickered, and the surroundings were quiet. I looked at the watch on the fan's hand, only 10 minutes left. While waiting, footsteps came from the stairs. The fan panicked and grabbed my hand. I pushed it away in annoyance. He asked with a trembling voice, "What is that sound?" A few seconds later, the owner of the footsteps appeared. The person who came was player number 2. The young man had red lips and white teeth, his eyes like a frightened deer. He looked at me and said, "More people have more power, can we work together?" I thought for a moment and replied, "Okay, but first you have to tell me what happened this morning." Hearing this, player 2's eyes showed fear. My friend was eaten by the monster princess. His pupils dilated as if he was seeing an extremely terrifying scene. His voice trembled. The monster devoured her body, but left her legs. Who, after hearing this, Fan bent down and vomited. Fan vomited and said with a lucky look, "Luckily I didn't go this morning." "Then how did you get out of there safely?" I continued to ask, observing number 2. The fan echoed, "That's right. Big Brother can leave because she is smart and capable. What about you?" 2's eyes were absent-minded. "My friend angered the monster because she said its legs were ugly. I didn't offend it, it can't kill people at will." I observed number 2, listening to him with half-belief. But at this moment, he wasn't important. What was important was the next period of time. Late at night, exactly 12 o'clock. On the stairs of the top floor, a pair of blue glass shoes suddenly appeared. These shoes were exactly like the shoes in the princess's photo. The shoes moved by themselves along the empty hallway without a single person. Clack, 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 each step seemed to step on people's hearts, making my heart tremble with fear. Before this strange scene, the fan's hand trembled as it tightly gripped the corner of my shirt. Number 2 was also scared, clenching his fist. I shook the fan away, looking at the 2 tall boys standing behind me without saying a word. "Come on, I'm scared too, just don't show it." I adjusted my emotions, signaling Fan to go get the dancing shoes. Fan panicked, "Can I not go?" I pulled out the watermelon knife and looked at him. Number 2 looked a bit surprised when he saw my knife. He lowered his head, not knowing what he was thinking. "I'll save you, don't worry." I looked at Fan, comforting him. He had no way back, closing his eyes and rushing in. I turned to number 2, "Cooperation, right? Go with him." As soon as he heard that there was someone else, Fan immediately grabbed number 2's shoulder. "Go. Don't even think about taking advantage." Number 2's face froze, reluctantly following. I followed closely behind. The dancing shoes walked elegantly. The 2 boys approached from behind, but it was still unaware. When it got close enough, Fan bent down and quickly grabbed the dancing shoes. Number 2 was a beat too slow to catch the other one. However, when Fan grabbed one, the other one stopped as well. But number 2 did not move at all. "Big Brother, I caught it." The Fan turned around, happily telling me the good news. I walked forward, but only took a few steps before suddenly stopping. The change happened right at this moment. Fan, who had been smiling at me just now, suddenly became dull and lifeless. His eyes were empty. He was like a wooden puppet, standing still. The dancing shoes slipped out of his hands, the other one also jumped and placed next to it. Fan took off his sneakers, stood on his tiptoes. He was going to put on the dancing shoes. This strange action caused number 2 to continuously retreat. "Get him now!" I shouted loudly. Number 2 was frightened and did not dare to move forward. I immediately rushed forward, using the knife to stab Fan in the back of the neck. With a groan, he fell to the ground unconscious. Comment screen, "Oh my god. What happened just now? The dead-eyed girl's movements are so sweet and cool. Seriously, she looks so slim, but how can she have such formidable strength? Does anyone recognize it?" Number 5's movements are clearly those of someone who has practiced. "Oh, my little sister number 5 always surprises me," heart face. Facing the comment screen filled with heart icons, my forehead wrinkled. Looking down at the dancing shoes, my heart tightened. Inside those gorgeous and elegant glass shoes were many sharp knives. They could stretch and change shape. So this was the knife dancing shoes. Anyone who touched it would lose their mind and be controlled by it. Then they would wear it on their feet, dancing on the sharp blades until they were exhausted and died in pain. The problem was that I couldn't touch it now, so how could I catch it? Before I could think of a way, the angry dancing shoes suddenly rushed towards me. I quickly dodged, but they still chased after me. What a vengeful pair of shoes. I ran down the stairs, and it followed. I ran down to the first floor, dodging while searching for something. Suddenly, my eyes stopped at the firewood burning brightly in the fireplace. As I passed the fireplace, the shoes bent into a curve. They were afraid of fire. My lips curved into a sly smile. As I passed by the fireplace again, I suddenly pulled out the burning firewood and turned back to face it. My feet stopped. I immediately found a box, stuffed the burning wood inside, and locked it. I hugged the box and climbed up the stairs to find the fan. Number 2, who had always been hiding in the corner, came out. He no longer looked timid and scared like before, but his eyes were full of ferocity. He raised his gun and ordered, "Take off your shoes and give them to me." Aren't our missions the same? Whoever completes them is the same, so why are you doing this? Number 2 scorned, completing passive and active missions will receive completely different rewards. I was confused, wasn't he a rookie? It turned out that completing a mission wasn't just about surviving, it also included receiving rewards. He kept his distance from me and ordered, "Don't play tricks, put the box down 1 meter away from me and step back." I followed his instructions. Even though he received the box, he had no intention of letting me go. "You're so stupid, I'll tell you again, the fewer the winners, the bigger the prize. So, you and that fainted idiot, go die." Number 2 smiled victoriously, the muzzle of his gun pointed straight at me. At that moment, the fan lying motionless behind Number 2 suddenly jumped up. He rushed forward and pressed Number 2 down to the ground. I quickly rushed forward and snatched the gun from his hand. But he was 1 step faster than me, throwing the gun down the stairs. Number 2 knew a little martial arts. He threw the fan away and rushed towards me. During the fight, I kicked him in the stomach. The force was so strong that he flew straight to the princess's room door. Almost instantly, the door swung open. A pale hand reached out from the dark door, grabbed Number 2's hair, and dragged him inside. Number 2 screamed in horror, and the door slammed shut. In the quiet night, the sound of flesh tearing and chewing echoed, infinitely amplified. Outside the door, it was terrifyingly quiet. The fan and I faced each other, fear clearly visible in both of our eyes. Comment screen, "Oh my god. Scared to death. Oh. This scene, I need to heal for a few more nights. The princess in the room is terrifying. My scalp is numb." Holding the amulet tightly, I turned on the Diamond Sutra that I had collected. "Upstairs, please share it with me. Big brother, can I sleep on the floor of your room?" When I returned, Fan's teeth were still chattering. The goosebumps on my hands had just subsided. I glanced at him and asked back, "Do you think that's reasonable?" Under my rejecting gaze, Fan angrily returned to his room. Carrying the shoebox, I also returned to my room. The shoes locked in the box still refused to settle down, constantly struggling and struggling. The noise it made me extremely angry. I threatened, "If you keep making noise, I'll throw you into the fireplace and roast you until you're scorched." It immediately fell silent. Looking at the box, my heart was filled with anxiety. The shoes had been found, but would the princess be able to wear them? I threw myself onto the soft mattress, looked up at the ceiling, my mind blank. Suddenly, an idea flashed through my mind. I jumped up and walked towards the box. I lightly kicked the box in front of me, then muttered to myself, "Hey, why don't you go back to the princess? Isn't she your master?" My casual words accidentally hit the nail on the head. At this moment, the system voice rang out, "Congratulations to the player for activating the Sharp Knife Dance Memoir, The Little Dancing Shoes, Carrying Great Sadness." Each step was graceful and elegant, but then something terrible happened. In order to avoid the devil, it was forced to hide during the day and only dared to show its face at night. Next, a long flashback like a film unfolded before my eyes. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess named Ella. On her 18th birthday, the queen gave Ella a pair of dancing shoes as a coming-of-age gift. Ella treasured and cherished the shoes, only wearing them on important occasions. Ella had an older sister who was a ballerina, but unfortunately, she lost her legs in a tragic accident. She became depressed and sad. To escape that mood, she was taken to a castle in the forest to recuperate. One day, Princess Ella visited her sister. What surprised her was that the castle that was warm and bright in her memory had now become gloomy and dark. Her sister, who was gentle and kind, had now become depressed and strange. When she learned that her sister's 18th birthday gift was a pair of shoes, the older sister's eyes suddenly changed. One night, Princess Ella was drugged with sleeping pills and fell into a deep sleep. Her older sister took away Ella's shoes, but forgot that she had no legs and couldn't wear them. She felt anxious, angry, and resentful. Until one day, many guests came to visit the castle. Looking at the healthy people walking freely, she slowly smiled. She had gotten legs, and also turned into a monster. But then she discovered that the shoes were gone. After reading the memoir, I fell silent. Rossi's words that "the shoes will choose the owner they like" kept repeating in my mind. I could only take it literally that the dancing shoes didn't like Princess Xenia. But unexpectedly, Princess Xenia wasn't the owner of the shoes. I had always felt very strange before. When I first started the game, the system instructed the players that their mission was to fulfill the wishes of the princesses. The system also said that the princesses were all beautiful and gentle. However, upon entering the castle, the player only saw one princess. Many people unconsciously ignored the clue the princesses mentioned at the beginning. Therefore, there were two princesses in the castle. Then a new question arose: where is the other princess? The princesses lived on the top floor, but the top floor only had one room. So where was the princess who was fast asleep? Comment screen: shocking. I thought there was only one princess. Shocked plus ID card. This is the first time a player has picked up a pair of dancing shoes in this level, and it is also the first time anyone has known that there is such a story. I'm really looking forward to the next part. Go for it, number 5. By the way, where will the other princess appear? Dawn broke. I was sleeping soundly when I was awakened by a hasty knock on the door. As soon as I opened my eyes, I looked towards the window. Light was coming through the half-open curtains. The knocking continued, making me angry and wake up. Whoever knocked on the door, I would punch him. Suppressing my anger, I went to open the door. When the door opened, I was completely awake. My mind suddenly became tense. The person who came was not the fan. Instead, it was Princess Xenia. Princess Xenia smiled brightly, happily saying, "It's time. Have you found my shoes?" She raised her eyebrows, pretending to be regretful. "If not, I will be angry." Then she spoke again, "Have you found my shoes?" Her expression suddenly turned cold, her eyes filled with horror. It was completely a kind of schizophrenic state. I thought that, according to the rules, the princess could not leave her room. Unexpectedly, she came to the door herself. "Have you found my shoes?" She repeated again. At this moment, her face darkened, and the murderous intent in her eyes was clearly visible. Just as she was about to take action, I spoke up, "Found them." Her eyes widened in disbelief, and she hurriedly asked, "Where?" I handed her the shoebox. She grabbed it and hurriedly opened it. The sparkling glass shoe appeared. Princess Xenia cried out in joy and took it out. During the day, the glass shoe had no blade, it had a normal shape. Princess Xenia looked at the glass shoe, her eyes filled with tears. She muttered, "Finally I can go home." Princess Xenia put down her shoes and lifted her skirt. The huge, swollen, and ugly feet came into my sight. I saw Princess Xenia, full of anticipation, stop when she lifted her feet. Instead of feeling strange because her feet were not like normal people, she angrily kicked the shoes away. A shrill scream rang out, "These are not my shoes." She looked at me with hatred, "You tricked me." I dodged out of the room, keeping a distance from her cautiously. "These shoes are exactly the same as the ones in the picture you showed me, they are the shoes you are looking for. The shoes that I had worked so hard to get last night, almost losing my life, how could they be wrong like this?" Princess Xenia protested, "If they were my shoes, why couldn't they fit me?" "Because your feet are too big." Princess Xenia's face twisted, "Do you want to die?" She opened her mouth to laugh, revealing sharp, wild-like teeth, and charged towards me. I ran away in a hurry. Waking up in the morning and encountering something annoying made me feel extremely bad. The shoes I had worked so hard to find were criticized, reminding me of the humiliation at work. The boss told me to do Plan A, but when I submitted them, he said he wanted Plan B, and scolded me for being deaf and not listening. I was really angry. I turned around and sarcastically said to the princess monster who was chasing me fiercely, "Not only are your feet big, but they are also ugly. If they don't fit, take them off, you thief. Don't pretend. The shoes aren't yours, and neither are your feet." The hateful gaze behind me seemed to penetrate me. I ran upstairs, and when I reached the 5th floor, I met Fan, who had just woken up. He greeted me, "Good morning, big brother. Exercising early in the morning?" I replied, "Exercising your father's head." Fan looked surprised. Immediately after, he saw the monster princess following me up the stairs. He shouted, "Ah! Ah! 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 Ah!" Then he joined the escape team. Fan, "Big brother, what's going on?" Me, running away to save my life. I rushed to the top floor, heading straight for the princess's room. I didn't run around aimlessly, my goal was that room from the beginning. Rushing into the room, Fan shouted, "Wait for me." The princess was right behind me, only a few steps away. I dodged to the side, waited for Fan to enter, then immediately closed the door and locked it. The door shook violently, Princess Xenia banged on the door hard. "You're here, block the door." The Fan panted, obediently blocking the door. "Big brother, what are we going to the monster princess's room for?" I didn't answer, but just glanced at the structure of the room. There was only one room on the top floor. If all the princesses were on the top floor, then the sleeping princess should also be in this room. I searched the closet, there was no one. I knocked on the walls and floor, all of which were concrete. Finally, my eyes stopped at the large pink bed in the room. I bent down and lifted the sheet that hung all the way to the floor. Light filtered through the dark underside of the bed. Someone was hiding under the bed. I pulled the woman out. The fan softly rang, "There's a ghost. There's a ghost." In front of me, the girl was sleeping with her eyes closed, looking exactly like Princess Xenia outside. It was no wonder that the fan was surprised, and I was equally startled. This was the real owner of the shoe. Princess Ella, the other princess in the castle. Feeling the tension in the room, Princess Xenia outside fell into a state of frenzy. The wooden door shook violently, about to collapse. "Big brother, this door can't hold on much longer." I pulled out my knife and told the fan to get out of the way. Just as he backed away, Princess Xenia broke through the door and rushed straight at me. My first action was to kick her out. Princess Xenia and I fought in the hallway. Fan wanted to help but didn't know how. Find a chance to hug her. Fan shook her head. No, men and women cannot touch each other. Hurry. Fan chose the right moment, hugging Princess Xenia from behind. Princess Xenia transformed into a monster. Her strength was extremely great. In less than 2 seconds, Fan was thrown away by her. But those 2 seconds were enough. Right when Fan hugged her, I swung my sword and cut off Princess Xenia's monstrous legs. Princess Xenia lost her legs, fell to the ground, her face returned to normal. The severed monstrous legs were shaking, and from there a series of severed leg pieces separated like a gushing stream. Fan covered her mouth, but in the end, she couldn't control herself and vomited. I stood there, stunned, relieved that I hadn't eaten anything this morning. No! Princess Xenia tried to crawl with her weak body. She picked up the prosthetic legs and tried to attach them to her legs, but to no avail. She was like possessed, trying again and again, but failed every time. Princess Xenia burst into tears. I can't go back, I can't go home anymore. She cried out in pain. I went over and asked, how can I wake up Princess Ella? Princess Xenia didn't hear at all, desperately repeating, I can't go home anymore. I frowned, looking at this absurd scene. The fan moved to my side, saying, is she crazy? Crazy? She can't be crazy. My mission is not yet complete. I approached her and spoke to her, but she seemed to not hear anything. If that was the case, I could only use force. I slapped Princess Xenia. Who said you can't go home because you don't have legs? If you can't walk, your sister can take you home. I came here to fulfill your wish and I will help you. She finally looked up at me and stopped crying and fell silent. Princess Xenia's bewildered eyes suddenly flashed with light, as if she had just woken up from a nightmare. She said, the gods said that they have abandoned me, that being defective is a sin. I can only replace my sister, become her, then I can return, and then they will accept me. Princess Xenia took my hand and asked, can you really fulfill my wish and take me home? Under her hopeful gaze, I nodded. Even if I have to carry her or piggyback her, I will take her home and complete the mission. I cannot die in this level. Ding! System, congratulations to the player for obtaining the Monster Princess's Memory Crystal. This is a magical crystal. It is fascinated by gossip and likes to discover other people's secrets the most. Possessing it, you can secretly infiltrate other people's memories. Note, it can only be used once a day. When I got the crystal, I saw Princess Xenia's memories. After losing her legs, Princess Xenia was very sad and was sent to the castle in the forest to recuperate. She had loved this place since she was little, and it was also a gift from her father the king. Accompanying her were a group of servants. At first, Princess Xenia's emotions gradually improved under the healing of nature. But over time, in the high mountains and faraway waters, without the constraints of the royal palace, things began to change. Faced with a disabled master, the servants gradually lost control. At first, when the royal palace sent people to convey messages, they were also chased away by the servants in the name of the princess. Gradually, the royal palace rarely sent people to visit her. The heartless servants began to be indifferent to her. They even said to her face that the royal palace had abandoned her. Her parents did not want a disabled child like her. They wanted to leave her in the forest to die. Princess Xenia's emotions became worse and worse. The letters she wrote were not answered. She did not know that the letters were all thrown away by the servants. Princess Xenia went from hope to despair. Her personality became more and more depressed and quiet. The unwillingness and resentment in her heart continuously grew. She began to hate everything. hated her disabled body, hated the cruel servants who treated her cruelly. She lived in a swamp of emotions. Until one day, an epidemic broke out. The servants did not know what animal corpses they had eaten, they got sick and died one by one. In the end, it was her. The memory stopped here. The so-called God, the face of which was completely invisible. It was a demon that specialized in bewitching people's hearts. Princess Sinja was bewitched by it and turned into a monster. Princess Ella came to visit her, also intending to take her back. But before she could say anything, she fell into a deep sleep. The one who taught you to kill wasn't a demon? You were fooled by it. I asked Princess Sinja, quickly tell me, how do I wake up Princess Ella? I know. The sleeping princess needs a kiss from the prince. The fan answered. He even tried his best to hint to me that he was the only guy in that prince. I really wanted to shake his brain to mix it up. Unexpectedly, Princess Sinja turned her gaze towards the fan. Could it be, is it really that absurd? Originally, the fan was very excited and pleased, but when he saw the serious situation, he immediately backed down. No way, I was just joking. No way, I have to save my first kiss for the person I like. He covered his mouth with his hand, protecting his virginity. I laughed coldly, he was not some innocent and naive teenager. He was only afraid of Princess Ella, whose face was exactly like that of the monster princess. You need to mix the male's blood into this potion and give it to her. Princess Sinja took off the necklace with a small bottle from her neck. I looked at Fan and smiled softly. He scratched his head awkwardly. I took a bottle, cut open Fan's hand to get some blood. Then I fed it to the sleeping princess. As soon as Princess Ella woke up, the two sisters hugged each other and cried. And started to recall memories. I promptly interrupted, Princess Ella, what is your wish? I knew that Princess Sinja's wish was to return home. But, I also needed to know Princess Ella's wish, to fulfill it. Although, I had already guessed what Princess Ella's wish was. As expected, Princess Ella replied, I want to bring my sister home with me. The fan and I sent them off from the castle. The moment the main door opened, a carriage was already waiting outside. Ella carried Sinja onto the carriage. As I said,
goodbye,
I said to them, please go home, princess. In the lush green forest filled with sunlight, Princess Sinja's clear tears sparkled under the light. When our eyes met, I saw both joy and sorrow in her gaze. She didn't have much longer to live. Ever since she was tricked by the devil and turned into a monster, she was no longer human. Now she could only muster up the will to return home. I sighed, this was also the consequence she had to bear for her sins. Finally, Princess Sinja whispered in my ear, I remember who that person is. The carriage quickly rolled away, until it completely disappeared. Ding, system, overjoyed, overjoyed. Congratulations to the player for passing the fairy tale level, invite the princess home. Countdown time to leave the game, 10 minutes. The comment box was filled with congratulatory messages. I stood there in a daze, a chill running down my spine to my scalp. The fan excitedly shook my shoulders, big brother, we made it through. We survived. I regained my composure and rushed into the castle. Then I suddenly stopped. In the main hall, Butler Rossi stood smiling on the top floor of the spiral staircase. He looked at me, raised his hand and clapped, congratulations, player number 5. I didn't feel any joy, only fear. In front of me was a small, elegant, unremarkable boy, Butler Rossi. He was also the god who had caused Princess Sinja to fall, bewitching her mind and her memories. I asked, who are you in the end? Rossi smiled, but it wasn't a fake, mechanical smile. It was a genuine smile. Who am I? I'll wait for you to find the answer yourself, if you can survive longer. We will meet again and I will become whoever is by your side. If you can find me, I will give you a gift. What did he mean? In the final seconds of the countdown, I was teleported out of the level by the system. In the last moment of my consciousness, I heard Rossi say, "See you at the next level." That's it. If you like it, please give me a like and subscribe.